Hi everyone, happy Monday. It's Bev from Flamingo Toes here with you today as we continue our orange Pekoe quilt along. You guys, you're so excited about this and it makes me even more excited. I'm having so much fun sewing up this quilt with you. And today we are diving into all things, well, maybe not all things applique, but applique for this quilt. This won't be like the comprehensive everything you've ever wanted to know about applique. This will be, well, mostly comprehensive. I'm really talking you out of watching this video already. And we're 3 minutes in. Hang in there. I promise we're going to have lots of information for you today. I'm going to go over ways to do applique with fusible interfacing and machine sew these babies down so that it's fast and easy, and we're going to go over a few different methods for appliquing these cute orange peels down because not everyone has the same machine and the same stitches. So we're going to cover a variety of things and ways for you to stitch these down, and you get to decide what you like best. So we're going to talk about all things applique, and I won't correct myself this time. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great and you had a wonderful 4th of July. If you're here in the US, we celebrated last week, so that was really fun. And it was Canada, I don't know what it's called, Canada Week, Canada Day? Canada Day sounds better than Canada Week. So hopefully you guys had a great week last week. It is toasty and hot here in Tennessee, but it's a really nice day. So let's say hi to a few people watching. We have a lovely crowd here. Marion is here from Prescott Valley, and I saw we also have Karen from Prescott. So Arizona's in the house and representing today. Yay, ladies. Teresa and Ruth and Christine's here. Hot from Jersey, she says. Christine, is it hot in Jersey? Are you feeling hot? That's great. Sherry's here, and Cindy and Wendy, and Leona's here. She was on vacation last week. Glad you're back, Leona. Thanks for being here. And Helen and Pamela are here. Marcy's here from stormy Northeast Texas. Okay, batten down the hatches, Marcy. I hope you guys are okay over there. I saw that the storm was hitting Texas today, so hopefully you guys are okay. Pamela's praying for Texas. That's great. Thanks, Pamela. Joy is here. Hot weather is finally hit in Alberta. Is that like, how long is your summer, Joy? That sounds really nice, actually, to now have it just now be hot. And Tess is here. Yvette. It's hot and humid in Pensacola, I bet. And she's going to start sewing today. Yay, Yvette. Good job. Lisa's here from Mississippi, and she says no effect of the hurricane, so that's good. And Maria's here. Allison's here from Roasty Toasty, Arizona. Paula says it's humid in Rhode Island. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you guys are here. Oh, and we have friends in New Jersey. Wendy wants to know where Christine is. So, you guys, this is going to be really fun today, and I think you're going to have a blast. And it was one of those things that I was really nervous about. I felt like, oh my gosh, this is tricky and complicated. This is a great intro into appliquing things. We're not going all like Lori Holt, which are amazing, but there's lots of curves and, it feels a little bit, for me, more advanced than what we're doing here today. So today, all we're going to do is applique down these really cute little orange peel shapes. And you can see from the quilt behind me that the blocks are really simple. They just have these orange peel shapes and then a little bit of accent fabric in the corners. And then the blocks are turned different ways to create these great big flower petal patterns. We're not going to worry about piecing our corner pieces or anything. We're going to do that next week. We're going to talk about, the piecing of the actual quilt. Today, all we're going to talk about is how to get these cute orange peel pieces that we cut out last week onto our fabrics. So that is going to be our fun, how-to today. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps of it, and it's going to be a blast. You guys can ask questions. I'm going to give you as much information as I can to ease any concerns and make you as excited about this as I am. Because I think really once you dive into this, you'll be like, I can do applique. This is a piece of cake, and you'll want to make up like 18 versions of this quilt, because I'm working on my 3rd version and I'm already like, okay, I can see that I need one with this fabric and one with this fabric. So I'm loving how easy and fun this is. And the other thing that's exciting is that I have more quilt patterns to come using this same template. So once you get this down, you'll be able to look at those other patterns and feel confident that you can do them. So it's just going to add one more little like versatile skill in your skill set. And some of you guys are old like applique pros, and that's awesome too. So hopefully you enjoy this and have fun sewing along with us. Patty's here from New Mexico. Yay! Oh, Joy says summer is short in Alberta. Leaves start changing by the end of August. Ooh, okay, that might be nice. The only thing that's bad about that is your winter's probably really long, right? I don't want that. I just want long springs and long falls. Where can I get that? Speak up if you have really long springs, really long falls, and short winters and summers, because I might move to visit you and we can sew together. So. So at the end of the video, we will be going over all the fun things that are going on the blog, aside from our sew-along. So stay tuned. We're going to dive here into our sewing in just a second, but stay tuned towards the end as we do our catch up on the other sew-alongs that I'm joining in with. I have an event coming up in a couple weeks where I will be at a shop here in Tennessee, so I want to tell you about that. And, of course, we have our giveaways, so you want to hang around and see if you're this week's winner. You might be. I'm not even going to give you a hint, but also, it's exciting. All right, you guys, you're so nice to bear with me. I'm just crazy. Wendy says she's excited. Yay, Wendy. Okay, let's start talking about what we need this week. So here's what we're doing. We are sewing these cute petals onto our squares, and you're going to be making a bunch of these because there are a bunch in the pattern. And don't worry too much about placement. As far as colors, you're just going to get them all sewn on right now. You're not going to worry about what blocks go with what or anything like that. You just want to pick out your pieces and sew them onto your fabrics. So on the quilt behind me, that's Afternoon Tea fabric. That was my collection that came out last year, and that was the original that I made with this pattern. You can find Afternoon Tea 10-inch stackers. This is a 10-inch stacker friendly quilt. You can find those still at Fat Quarter Shop and other shops. I have them linked in today's video description. I'm sewing with a fabric collection of Sandy Gervais called Feed My Soul. It's really pretty, you guys, and I've shown you the last few weeks the really cute prints for this, and I'm putting it on my navy Dainty Daisy background because I wanted to create one that had a sort of a stained glass vibe. So it's got this darker background and it will have these really pretty florals. So for my orange peels, I'm staying away from some of the fabrics in the collection that kind of blend too much. So I'm using almost all of this 10-inch stacker. We don't need every bit of it, but I wanted to show you. So here is one of the really dark prints, and I did sew this one up, but when I laid it on, you can still see it, but I don't love this hardly any contrast. So because I have a couple extra room, you don't need every single 10-inch stacker piece. I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to save this and use those on a light background, and I'm going to make probably like a coordinating pillow. So I'm going to save those for something else. So I've got a few just to show you how cute different prints look against the navy. Let's see. Wendy says she's doing hers in lighthearted, just can't decide on white or navy background. Okay, Wendy, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I haven't sewn with lighthearted. Is there a really dark blue in the collection, or is it more kind of a stone blue? I know she's got a lot of blues and greens in lighthearted, but I can't remember if it's a really dark one. If it's not got like a dark navy, I think you'd be safe with either one. if it's got, kind of look at the balance of prints that you've got in Lighthearted and see if you have more white prints or light colored prints, then go with a dark. If you have more like medium to dark prints, then go with the light, just to give yourself that good contrast. I hope that helps. Let's see. Cindy said she'd gotten this as a kit a while ago. So glad for this so long. Oh, I'm glad, Cindy. That works out great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need a piece of our background fabric. We've got that all cut here. We need one of our orange peels, and we need a piece of fusible interfacing. I am using a very lightweight Pellon interfacing. I go over that in last week's video, so if you're not sure what to do, go ahead and watch last week's video. But fusible just means that one side, and I'm using the kind of interfacing that only has the fusible web on one side, so it's not fusible on both sides. On one side, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. Oh yeah, you can. These little tiny dots are what is, it's like the fuse. So when I put this against the fabric, it will, and we'll iron it, it will stick to it. This other side is softer, so you can't see the dots. And you can really feel it with your hands. One side of your interfacing is going to be soft, and one side is going to feel slightly rough and bumpy. And you are going to place the right side of your fabric with the bumpy side of the fusible web. And so, and you can't iron your fusible interfacing, so it might be a little bit wrinkly from the packaging. That's just going to have to, you're just going to have to pin it if that's the case. Mine's a little bit wrinkly. It's not too bad, but you can't iron fusible interfacing, because if you do, your lovely ironing board or wool mat will be much more stable than it was before, because you will have ironed your fusible webbing to it. And let's not do that. We don't want to do that. So this is what we have. And before I go sew, I'm going to show you some options for sewing. And I'll reinforce how we're going to do this as we go. But I want to talk to you about different stitches before I sew. So I am, oh, Erin's here. Hi, Erin. Wendy says no darks with Lighthearted, more minty. Okay, so you would be fine doing navy. That's awesome. So there's some options with sewing down these. I am going to use the blanket stitch on my machine. I have a Baby Lock Crescendo, and there are a lot of machines that do have that blanket stitch. And a blanket stitch is just a straight, and then there's like a little line, and straight, and a little line, and straight, and a little line. So similar to an embroidery stitch, but it's done by a machine. So this is what a blanket stitch looks like. All you can see of it, the way we do it is we're stitching most of our stitching on the outside of our little template here, but there is a little stitch that goes over, and that's what holds it down in addition to the fusible webbing. So this is what it looks like when you use a contrasting thread, and this is what it looks like when you use invisible thread. So the same, you're going to find the same thing with all of these. Invisible thread is going to make it so that you have less thread changes. You don't have to worry about finding a thread that will match every single one of your top prints, which is hard because some of our top prints have white backgrounds, some of them have green backgrounds, that kind of thing. They're going to be all over the place. So that's why I like to use an invisible thread, and I use Aurifil's clear thread. That's the one I like. But then I use the color in my bobbin of my background thread. And I'll show you why I do that in just a second. So this is what the blanket stitch looks like. And I'm going to give you the settings that I use for that so you know how to do that. So let's see. Cindy said, would you match your thread to the background then? So yeah, and the contrast is cute. If you like that look, if you want to go with kind of almost an accent stitch, then that's totally fine. And I'm not going to go into like decorative stitches. There are a ton of decorative stitches that different machines have. You can absolutely applique it on with that. I'm just going to show you some basic stitches so that you can decide what you like. It just really depends about how much you want that thread to show. And of course, this is a light background and a dark background, so you're going to see that stitching a whole lot more. But if you were doing that, say, on this fabric, you wouldn't see those as much, that decorative stitching, right? That blanket stitching. Same with this one. Because it's red, you know, you're going to have to change your threads a lot. So just keep in mind, whatever thread you pick, if you want it to really show up, pick something that's going to contrast on there. Leona asks, does the invisible thread melt with ironing? No, I've never had a problem with that. Okay, so this is the blanket stitch. This is the one I'm actually going to be doing on my machine when we go sew in just a few minutes. But I want to show you a couple other options in case your machine doesn't have a blanket stitch. So you can do a small zigzag stitch. Here's what it looks like in navy. You can see I just kind of did a little bit of a smaller stitch. And same thing, this side is stitched down as well, but it is zigzagged. And I'm sorry, invisible thread. It's all zigzagged. So my settings for this are the width of my zigzag was 2.0 and the length is 1.4. So that's what I have for just a small zigzag. So just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. Oh, pretty much every machine, unless you've got like a Jazz or something like that that only does straight stitches, is going to have a zigzag. So it's going to make it a very easy, and especially if you use an invisible thread, a very subtle stitch. If you don't like that and you don't, so I'll just also say, I did this zigzagging so that it kind of started on my background and went on to, so it kind of overlaps the two. And it's a little bit hard to see there, but the zigzag stitching does cover both the background fabric and the little petal. So I have it overlapping a little bit. Then, if you don't like either of those options, you can do a straight stitch. So here's what a contrast color straight stitch looks like. If you do it right inside the edge, it's extremely subtle. And same thing here. So I've got, let's see if I can get that close enough that you can actually see. Can you see? Oh yeah, you can see. So you can see the invisible thread, and you can see just a tiny bit of dots from using a dark background, a dark bobbin thread. But you can get right up close to that edge with a straight stitch, and you're going to quilt over this anyway. So this kind of a stitch is fine. You can totally do this. I will tell you, this is the fastest, because all you're doing is straight stitching around the petal, whatever it is. So you're going to, any stitching you do, unless you use a contrast thread, is going to really blend well, and you can kind of decide what works best for you and your machine and what you're most confident with. So, and again, if you want to play with your, Ruth says she wants to play with her extra stitches, you can get creative and, use a little leaf stitch or something that's really pretty to go around your petals. You're just basically holding it down, and then you're going to quilt on top of it. So you want to get, pretty close to that edge so that your, pieces don't eventually come up over time. And your quilting is going to do a lot of that and hide a lot of that. So have fun with that. Now I want to show you, this is again a fairly subtle thing, but I want to show you why we want to use a bobbin thread that matches our background fabric. And I'm going to see if I can get this close enough for you to see it. So I started stitching this with a white bobbin thread because that's what I had in before. Can you see right here along this edge? So this is using the blanket stitch, but you can see just a ghost of a white line. I'm going to just kind of move it, and then you can see where I stopped doing that. Where you can see right here, I went from a navy bobbin thread to, from a white bobbin thread to a navy bobbin thread. Now, that is very close to the camera, so you can see it. If I have it down here, you can't tell. So it's not a huge deal, but I think you'll find you like the overall invisibility or overall vibe of the stitching if you match your bobbin thread to your background thread. So if you're using white, use white, etc. You know, like I switched to a navy. So, so that is what we're going to do. But first we need to get our orange peels ready to sew on, right? So let's do that. What I'm going to do, now I've got my cute orange peel here, and I've got my fusible interfacing, and I've put my fusible interfacing so the bumpy side is right sides together with the print. And we're going to go and we're going to sew around all the sides. You don't need to leave an opening for turning. So let's go over the sewing machine and switch and do that. Okay, you guys ready? All right, I need to do some adjustments here. So I just lowered my stitch length down to 1.8. That's what I normally sew at. And I'm going to just add a couple pins into the center of this to make sure that it stays and it doesn't shift around. This is so soft, this fusible interfacing, so it can shift if, you know, you're not being careful. So I don't usually start at the top because I like the control of getting up to the top and then turning. So I'm going to kind of start here in the center. You do whatever works for you. It doesn't matter as long as you sew all the way around. So I'm using 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're just going to sew around all the sides. Now I've got my foot on kind of an automatic lift when I stop, and I like that because it allows me to turn the curve without the fabric kind of bunching up underneath it. So when I feel like it's getting to be a little bit on, you know, pulling, then I stop and lift my presser foot. If I didn't have that on, I would stop and lift my presser foot itself. So you don't want to race too far through this because you are sewing curves. So if you do go too fast, you can end up with some weird puckers and things like that. So I'm coming down and I am stopping about 1/4 inch away from the edge of that. And I'm just eyeballing it. If you are worried about that, you can measure in 1/4 inch and put just a little dot with a marking pen. I'm going to do one more stitch because I feel like I didn't go quite far enough. My check is to make sure that when I turn it, I'm lining back up with that presser foot. So that's good enough for me. And now I'm just going to continue sewing here. It's starting to kind of lift a little bit, so I'm just going to raise my presser foot. Same there. And I'm just working my way around all the sides of the orange peel. And I'm kind of holding it in place as I go so that it doesn't shift through or pucker up in any weird ways. So coming back to the other point, and I'm just double checking. I'm going to do one more little stitch. And there we go. So I'm going to a point, and I'll show you guys this in a second. I'm going back to where I started, and I'm just going to overlap a couple stitches. So this is kind of straight here, but we don't want to sew a straight. We're just coming to a point and going down. So that's going to give our orange peels kind of that point. So let's go over to the other camera, and I'm going to trim this up, and then we're going to press it in place. Okay, so let's get our iron over here. We're going to shimmy some things around so you guys can see. I didn't have my other computer over here, so I want to make sure I didn't miss any comments. Let's see. Cynthia's here from Ohio. Pamela says she starts in the middle too. She agrees. She likes the control of the points. And Paula said she brought her stitch length up to 2.5, less puckering. Her points are different on each peel. Okay, so Paula's tip is to raise her stitch length. So it's entirely up to you. You're not really worrying about a super tight stitch length with this because it's not going to come off or anything like that. So if you find that you have more control with a little bit longer stitch length, then go ahead and do that. So what we've done here is we've sewn around all the way around, right? So I don't want all this bulk here at my point. So I'm just going to take my sharp scissors and I'm going to trim off a little curve. If any of you were apparel sewers, then you will be used to trimming with points, and just like you do if you make a pillow or a bag or something, you're just clipping your points to add less, to take away some of the bulk, to add less bulk. That made good sense. To take away some of that bulk here at the top and bottom, because when we turn it around, we want those points to be pointy. So the other thing you're going to do is we need to turn this inside out. So I recommend just pulling the pieces apart so that your fabric, your print fabric, is away from the interfacing. And you're going to take a sharp pair of scissors and just cut a slit about 1.5 inches up into that interfacing. You make sure you don't cut your print fabric. So when you open this back out, you have a nice size little slit here in the interfacing, and that's how you're going to turn your peel right side out. And the reason we do that is so that we don't have to really worry about trying to fold in a side. You can leave an opening in the side, but it's just not really super ideal as far as having to tuck it in and then it doesn't lie necessarily straight, and it's just not ideal. So because we put our right sides together with our fusible, now we have the print side of the peel on one side and the fusing bumpy side on the back side. But our points don't look super great. So what I recommend you do is get a point turner. I have this cute flamingo. I think a lot of you guys have this. If you don't, you can find it in my shop. And we are going to carefully, and by carefully, I really mean carefully, because this fusible webbing is very thin and it will break if you push too hard on that end. So I've put the point of the turner on the fabric side of the seam, not, so you can see it here on the fusible side of the seam. I wouldn't do that. I would put it on the under the seam allowance so that you can press a little bit more and get that point nice and pointy. I mean, it's not going to be a super hard point because it's fabric, but we're going to get it as pointy as we can get it. So I'm just putting that into the point, pushing gently and getting my point as pointy as I can get it. So, and that's one of the fun things about this is it's a nice point, but it's not so pointy that you're going to push through your fabric every time. Now, you don't have to purchase this, of course. You can. It's a great tool and I use it all the time, but you can use something if you have around the house. Take your budget into consideration. If you have like a chopstick or a different kind of point turner or anything like that, you can use that to get your points nice and clean. The other thing that some people mentioned, I had somebody mention, and I'm sorry that I don't know your name. If you're here watching, you can raise your hand, is that she did a trimmed with a pair of pinking shears her seam allowances before she turned this right side out. And that kind of did make it so that her curves, you know, laid a little flatter for her. I don't worry too much about that. There's not that much of a curve. It's not a super sharp curve. So I feel like it's fine for me. But if you're feeling like it's too bulky and the seam allowance is there, you can trim off a little bit of that seam allowance if you would like to. Ruth says she wants to try this but make a table runner instead of a whole quilt since this is her first applique. That's awesome, Ruth. And then you'll be super addicted and you'll be like, gosh, now I need to make the whole quilt. Oh, yay. Marion says she loves the flamingo. She uses it all the time. Yay! And so did Marcia. Thanks, ladies. Okay. Oh, me. Cindy, you said that you did the pinking shears. Thanks, Cindy. So she just sewed her fabric to her interfacing, like marked a line, and then she cut it out. So that's why she did it. So it wasn't like a double cut. So here's our cute orange peel. We can't press this yet because it's fusible. So I've just kind of turned it out. I do sort of this on the side, you know, that kind of little shimmy that we do with seams sometimes, to make sure that the seam is as close to the edge of our orange peel as we can get without actually pressing it. And now we need to press this in place. And I don't mark this with a pen, but again, do what you feel most comfortable doing. I do some finger pressing. So I am going to finger press a diagonal line into my little square here this way, and I'm going to go this way. And we'll press this back out with our iron, but this just helps us know where to lay it on. And you can see it a little bit, so we're just kind of doing a diagonal line here. And I'm going to do the same thing with my orange peel. I'm not pressing it in half long ways, but I'm pressing it in half short ways. So what I'm going to do is I am going to line up the pointy ends of my orange peel with the diagonal line that I've pressed down, finger pressed into the center of my square. This looks a little bit not square, and it's because of the camera angle I have to get this to be the right angle from up above. I promise this is square, so don't feel like I've cut something weird. It's just the angle that the overhead camera is turned at. So it is square, I promise you. So then you're going to line up, so you finger press this way too, and you kind of want to double check and make sure that the lines that you finger pressed into your orange peel are the same and they're lined up halfway here. So you want this little orange peel to be centered in your square. And you don't need to worry about where that point is, if it's going this direction or this direction, because we're just going to sew it on, and if you need to turn your block, turn your block. That's not a problem. So once you have it all pretty and in place where you want it, then you're going to go ahead and set your iron on it, and you're going to press your orange peel down. And that's going to press your fusible web to your background fabric. Now I like to make sure it's pressed nicely. So once it's pressed on the top, I flip it over and press it on the back side. And that just gives that fusing a little bit more heat and time to fuse in place. And then you have your piece all down, and you don't have to worry about having this shift on you when you go to sew it down, which is what we're going to do next. But it's held in place. It's going to be very stable. I do still recommend sewing it down, because even though you're going to quilt on top of this, we want our quilts to be used for years, right? And fusible interfacing, especially sheer enough fusible interfacing that we can do applique with, is just not going to hold up over years of washing. So we want to sew our pieces down. So let's take this over. We're going to do the blanket stitch, and I am going to put the invisible thread in place, and change out my bobbin thread, and we're going to stitch this cute little orange peel down. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yvette says she's going to making this with 48 petals instead of 80. Love it. Janice asked if I have a new needle minder coming soon. Janice, are you slightly psychic? I don't know. I feel like you might be. Maybe you should go buy a lottery ticket. Marie says she has 2 or 3 of the flamingos, and she uses them with EPP to loosen the glue. Love that. And Marion says she loves the background fabric. And Casey's here. Yay! Aw. She says nothing makes it better than a spoonful of quilting. Aw, thinking about you. Paula says we don't cut larger than trim to size. Are you talking about the orange peel? No. You cut on the orange peel. You're going to cut on the edge, and then we're going to sew. This line is the seam allowance, and that brings it down to this size, so that when we put it on here, you can see that the seam allowance is pretty close. Pretty good. Mostly good. And Ruth says, I guess we should make sure to be 1/4 of an inch from any of the sides. You will be. If you put it halfway here, but yes, you're going to be 1/4 of an inch from all the edges because you've put it halfway, and that's how I've designed the pattern, is so that it will be. You're not going to catch it in any seam allowances when we sew. And Busy Bee's Crafting Corner asked if I use steam to iron. No, I don't use steam. I don't actually like using steam when I'm using Fusible because I feel like it hinders the fuse. So I just use a dry heat. I don't add any of starch or anything. If you've already starched your fabric, that's fine. But I don't use any steam or anything wet when I'm fusing in place because I feel like that hinders the hot fuse of the interfacing. Okay, so Teresa says she feels better because she was scared of the applique, but now she thinks she can do this. Oh, yay! I'm so glad. Okay, so let's just go to the next step and let's go sew. Oh, one sec. Hang on. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. See, I keep picking up the wrong thing. 1 second. So I have to write down what I set my blanket stitch at, and I kept picking up the wrong piece of fabric. So I apologize for that, you guys. Okay, so what we're going to do is take off our regular thread, and we're going to change it out with the invisible thread. So this is a lovely little invisible thread that we have here. That's kind of, okay, there we go. And I'm just going to thread my machine like normal. Now, I know sometimes that machines get kind of funky with clear thread. You'll need to do some practicing with your machine if you've never used it before. But I've been really happy with this thread from Aurifil, and I really recommend it. So, and it even works like in my little machine with the self-threader. So that's not a problem. So I'm switching out my bobbin thread for the navy. And I'm sorry, you guys, I can't see your questions here, so I will look for questions when I come back. I'm switching out my foot. So my sewing machine foot is a quilting foot. So I cannot do a zigzag or a blanket stitch with this foot because there's just not enough width here. And we don't need to worry about a seam allowance on this. So I'm putting just my regular J. You'll put your regular foot, whatever your machine has, as far as like a big opening here. So I'm changing that out. Believe me, I've made that mistake before. I don't want to make it again. And now I'm going to the blanket stitch, which is right here. I hope you guys can see that. And then you'll need to change settings. On your machine, it's going to be different, but you want to just play with it a little bit and see what size, width, and length you like for your stitching. So I'm putting mine at 2.5 millimeter width and 0.8 length. You can also bump that up to 1. 1 is fine too. Let's just do it with 1. It's a little bit faster. So you can see my needle has now gone over to this. It's not centered anymore. And that's what I'm going to line up with the side of my orange peel because I want this line of stitches to be outside the peel and just the little like teeth of the blanket stitch as covering my peel. So I am going to not cut my thread. I'm going to put my presser foot down. And I'm just going to start sewing. And you can see that it does several straight stitches and then it jogs over and does a little blanket stitch. So you can, once you get the vibe of it, you can just keep going. If you feel like your fabric is starting to pucker from the curve, then go ahead and lift your foot and adjust as needed. But your goal is just to run your stitches along the outside of that orange peel with the little teeth. You can see it jog over every, I don't know, third stitch or whatever it is. And you can go as fast or as slow as you're comfortable with. So I've sped it up just a little bit so that it doesn't take a year and a day. So now I'm going to come up to kind of the point, and I'm slowing back down. And I just want to turn my peel here so that it continues to stitch onto the peel. And there's just 2 or 3 little extra stitches that end up on a peel that way at the point of it, which isn't a bad thing, because if it's going to come up on your fabric, you know, off of your background fabric over time, it's going to be at the point. It's not going to be in the middle. If you happen to go over onto your peel, that's not a big deal. Especially if you're using invisible thread, you're not going to see it. It's not a big deal. If you're using a contrast thread, you might see it a little bit more. I still wouldn't worry about that. By the time you get all these orange peels on a quilt and it quilted, you're not going to notice that. But you can see I'm just kind of guiding this with my left hand. I'm just making sure to turn the fabric as I need to, and I'm just sort of guiding it as I go. I highly recommend just practicing initially. Get some scrap fabric and kind of drive around a little bit and practice with whatever stitch you decide to use so that you feel comfortable when you do it. I'm at my point again, so I'm just going a little bit slower, and I'm just continuing to turn my orange peel here. And you'll do the same thing, same method if you're zigzagging. You're going to want to kind of have your zigzag start on your background fabric and go onto your orange peel. If you were doing the straight stitching, you'll just stitch right inside the edge. And you're just going to go back to where you started. Again, I started kind of in the side, and then I worked my way around the points. And once you overlap just a couple stitches, you'll cut your thread, and that will be it. You can kind of see the light shining through a little bit, but that is all it takes to sew it down. It's really not too bad, you guys. I feel like once you do one, it'll ease some of those concerns you have. I will say before I get up that once you have done this, make sure you, if you're going back to a straight stitch, that you change out your presser foot, and make sure you don't do your zigzagging with this foot. I don't want to break any needles. Okay, let's go back and look at these. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry that I didn't have my computer over there to read your questions, but let me make sure. Casey says she's praying this live will last about 4 hours. Wouldn't that be fun? Someday, some weekend, we should just have like a big weekend, sew in our pajamas, make like a whole thing together. Wouldn't that be fun? Would you guys be down for that? Would you be here if I decided to be live for like 4 hours on a weekend sometime? I think we should do it. It would be really fun. Casey asked if the thread has a weight size. Okay, I don't know. Hang on one sec. Okay, I don't have that in front of me. If you look up the Aurifil invisible thread, it only comes in one weight. I have both the clear and the black clear. I don't ever use that dark one. For some reason, unless I'm sewing on black fabric, I feel like it shows up too much. So if you just want to invest in one, I would recommend the clear one, not the dark clear, unless all of your prints are black. Okay, let's see. Marian says, thanks for showing the screen on the sewing machine. It's good to have an idea of what you're doing that way, especially since we have the same machine. Yay, Marian. Let's see. Casey says it would be so perfect with a light trapunto and maybe hand-tied with button centers like a flower. Well, that would be beautiful. Teresa says, when stopping and starting your stitch, do you ever backstitch to make it so secure, or do you stitch a little past where I started? I go past where I started just a little bit, so I overlap them a little bit. Now, I'm using invisible thread, so I can overlap a little bit without a problem. If you are intentionally picking a contrast, you know, so that it shows up intentionally, you know, like we have with those samples that I made, then you'll decide how much you want to overlap. It might not be much, because you will see an extra little dark spot there if you've done a contrasting. Oh, and you guys are loving the idea of the all day. All right. A virtual quilt retreat, Allison says. Yes. All right. I will think on that, you guys, and see if I can figure out how to do that. Wouldn't that be so fun? Okay, I'm all distracted. That sounds like just the blast. Okay, so seriously, you guys, that's all there is to appliquing these down. All we're trying to do is get these held down as either subtly or intentionally, you know, outstanding as you guys want to do, so that we can go ahead and sew them into our blocks together and quilt them. Now, I think you'll see there is a little bit of extra weight here, and that doesn't bother me. It's not so heavy that it doesn't still blend, you know, fold and give and stuff like that, but it is going to be a slightly thicker block than you're used to. Your quilter isn't going to have any problem with that. I didn't have any problem gumming up my machine or anything like that. So there's no worries there as far as quilting it or anything like that. If it really does bother you, you can go through and cut out, you know, the back of this if you want to. I really don't think you need to do that, though. I think you'll find that it's still very lightweight, and you're not going to have a problem having this be a little bit, so it's just kind of extra layers of fabric in that. But you can see on the quilt behind me, and I'll kind of move it next week so you can see, it still folds and gives just like a regular quilt, even though that interfacing is in there, so there's no problems. Kimberly says she's sorry. No worries. She's a little bit late. Laura said, do I recommend a specific weighted thread for the bobbin to work with the invisible thread? I just use my regular, I'm going to switch back to our regular camera here. I just use my regular Aurifil. I sew with Aurifil thread, and I just used my regular Aurifil thread in the bobbin. You don't ever want to use invisible thread in the bobbin. That won't work well. I've not ever heard of anybody that loves the experience of that. So don't do that. Just use your regular thread that you quilt with in the bobbin and just match it to your fabric color-wise. So that's all you need to worry about there. Paula asked if I long arm for customers. I do not, Paula. I just don't have time to do the things that I'm supposed to be doing, much less extra things. So I'm sorry, I don't. I do have some recommendations if you are in the area, but I don't do that. Teresa asked how much pellin did I have to make this quilt. That is in the pattern. I don't have the pattern right here, but I believe it's 18 inches wide, 6 yards is what I called for. So sometimes the packaging is 15 by 3 yards. So in that case, you would need to get 3 packages, or you can buy it by the yard. It's totally up to you, whatever, you know, however easy for you to find it. But that's what you'll need, because we need 80 of these. We need 80 little orange peels because you have to have one for every peel. So Marion says she likes leaving the fusible to the back of the applique. It just adds to the beauty of the quilt. Yay! And Lenora says, after a few, got in a zone and just kept going. It's a very easy curve to sew. Perfect, Lenora. Yes, thanks for that update. It is an easy curve. It's not as bad as like a drunkard's path or something like that where you're doing like a circle. We're doing more of an oval curve, so it's great for baby steps. And once you get this down, I think you'll find that you can feel more confident about other applique. So that is the stitch, that blanket stitch is the stitch that I use when I'm doing my Dresdens as well. It's the exact same thing. In fact, you don't even need the interfacing with the Dresden. You can just pin it in place and then sew that down along the edges of the circle or the points of the, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, guys. I'm going to make it go away. That is the stitch that I use. So you can feel more confident doing other types of applique once we get this down. It's a great one. And Red Knit said she needed 3 packs of 15-inch wide. Yeah, I needed a third as well. I didn't use all of the third, but that's what I bought too. I bought the 15-inch wide. So that's probably what, if you're finding packaging, that's probably what you'll need. Yay! Okay, so that's all we have as far as our applique. Next week, we're going to go over sewing the cute little corners. So you can see the little accent fabrics here. And I'm going to actually sew together 4 of those to make the kind of flower block. And we're going to talk about color placement and doing all that next week. So, and then we only have 1 more week left, you guys. I can't believe we only have 2 weeks left of this fun sew along. Oh, it's just awesome. It's been really fun, and I want to see all your quilts. Marion says she loves applique, but this is her first orange peel. Yay, Marion! So come back next week as we kind of work on assembling our blocks, and we'll talk about all of that. If you guys have questions, you can leave them here, or you can send me an email. Emailing me if you have questions about anything in particular is the best way to get a hold of me. Sometimes I don't always get notified if you've left me a message on Facebook or whatever. So if you email me, I definitely get the emails. Okay, so let's go on to what's going on to the website. What's going on with the website? So I am joining in with Fat Quarter Shop. They're hosting a Christmas sew-along they do every July. Well, one year I think we had it in August, but most of the time it's in July. It's Christmas in July around here. And so it's a beautiful mystery quilt. It's a free pattern, and it's called Star of Wonder. And last week was the first week, and so we made these really pretty quilt block centers. Look at this, you guys. Isn't this lovely? I love it. So I'm sewing along. I've got Dainty Daisy here in the center. This is my, it's a cloud background, so it's not quite white. It's kind of this creamy white. And it's the Barn Red, which goes really good with the Christmas prints in Merry Little Christmas. And that's the collection that I'm using. So I showed you guys that last week, I think. So I'm using kind of, it's a really traditionally colored red and green collection. It's gorgeous, you guys. So this is my first block. Tomorrow we'll be sharing block 2. There are 5 weeks in this, so 4 block-ish type things, and then an assembly week. So I am sewing along, and I'm really excited. I love this block. I think it's gorgeous. It's such a pretty star block, you guys. And it looks sort of complicated, but you know how Fat Quarter Shop does with their patterns. They're just all really well written. So you'll find that it goes together really nicely, and everything's free. So even if you don't have time to make a Christmas quilt, download the patterns and save it for future reference, because I think this one is going to be one that you're just going to go back to again and again. And the thing that I love about it is, yes, I mean, we're making it in Christmas fabrics, and it's Christmassy because it's a star, but some of that, a reason why it looks so Christmassy is because it's Christmas fabrics. I think you could make this quilt in any fabrics and it would look beautiful. So keep it in mind as other options too. So I have decided to add to the, I'm going to talk about that in the last week. I am adding to the fabric, to the overall size of the quilt just a little bit. So I'm going to add another couple borders, and I'll have information about that. But definitely join in if you guys are sewing. Share in my Facebook group. I would love to see your Star of Wonder blocks, and you can get the link to that on today's video description to this block. And in that post on my website, I have the links to the free patterns. And there's a free cross stitch along as well that is really gorgeous. So you can make a matching coordinating cross stitch. So yay for that. Ruth said it would be pretty as a pillow. Yes, 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 yes. And Marion says, she asked if you can email me with questions about Garden of Quilt. Absolutely, Marion, for sure. So that is super fun. We're still doing the summer block party. So if you're not familiar with that, you can go to my website and search summer block party, or I have a link in today's video description. And it is a free sew along that I joined in with 7 of my other designer friends. You guys, they're amazing, amazing ladies. And so the reveal, the free blocks and the layout, that part's all done. You can still get the patterns though. And every Friday in July, we're sharing bonus patterns that use those blocks. So on Friday, we had Amy of Amaruni Design shared a free pillow pattern for how to finish a 12-inch block into a pillow. It has a really cute scalloped border. And then Andy of A Bright Corner shared a mini quilt that uses her parade time block. And it's gorgeous, you guys. It's really stunning. So if you haven't checked that out and signed up, you can still do that through the whole month of July. My bonus project is this Friday. So I will show you guys what that looks like in next week's video. I can't reveal it yet. It's a secret still. So if you haven't signed up, please sign up for that. It's really been a fun sew along. So, and you guys will love it. Here's what my block looks like. It's this little popsicle block. It's really cute. And I will tell you that my bonus project does use my block along with a couple of others. So you can find another cute way to use popsicles. Popsicle block. All right, you guys, I wanted to let you know on my shop, I have every month a $5 pattern of the month. And this month we're celebrating Christmas in July with my Christmas Adventure quilt pattern. You can get either the paper or the PDF version of that quilt for only $5, which is like a 52 or 57% savings. My quilt patterns are normally $10.50, so it's a big savings. And then I also marked down the matching cross stitch pattern that I have. So for this month you can get either of those cross stitch or quilt Christmas Adventure patterns for only $5. And I always post the $5 pattern of the month in the video description. So if you ever forget to check or you're not on my email newsletter, you can find out what that is and pick that up. So that's exciting. Kimberly says she loved the bonus pillow with the scallop border. Isn't that genius? I love it because I always end up with blocks for some reason, or I find a quilt pattern that I love and I'm like, oh, I can't even have time to make this whole thing. But if it's a 12-inch block, you've got the perfect way to use it in that darling little pillow. Yay. Marion says she loves the summer block party, but she doesn't know how to post on Instagram. Okay, sorry about that, Marion. Oh, Teresa's here. No worries, Teresa. Oh, and Teresa said my pink sweater looks nice. Thank you, Teresa. That was very sweet of you. Oh, yay. Okay, so Pamela says she's downloading Star of Wonder patterns but catching up on her spooky and sweet projects. Yay. Don't say you're behind. There's no time limit on this. It's totally fine. Oh, and Janice Carroll says she's an applique junkie. Yay. Okay, guys, I almost signed off without doing our giveaway. I hope that you would have said, hey, Bev, where's that giveaway? Okay, so every week we have a fun giveaway, and it's my way of saying thank you to you guys for tuning in and just being so generally awesome. I love our community, and I have so much fun with you guys, and I hope you guys have fun too. So this is my way of saying thank you for tuning in, and we just have little giveaways every week. So last week, our giveaway was a cute little tea cakes bundle. So this is my tea cakes pattern. I designed it to go with afternoon tea, just like the orange Pekoe quilt behind me. And this quilt is so fun. It's designed for a roly-poly or a jelly roll, same thing. And it is fast, you guys, to sew. It looks complicated. There's lots of little pieces, but you do a lot of strip piecing and cutting it up. And then you're like, wow, I just sewed that whole quilt in no time. So this is the tea cakes quilt. And I have, of course, for you, because I love you, a afternoon tea roly-poly. So this is what you need, along with a little bit of extra fabric. And then I have a tea charm for you, so you can put this on your bags or on your keychain or whatever you would like. And so this is the giveaway from last week, and the winner is Lisa Rogers 4564. Lisa, you are the winner, and if you can email me, bev@flamingotoes.com, I will get your prize out to you this week. So yay, Lisa, congrats! And if you want to enter this week's giveaway, all you have to do is leave a comment, and that counts as your entry, and you can do that live, which you are watching right now, or later, which you might be watching right now. And you will be entered to win. And then you have to come back next week and see if you're the winner. So yay, Lisa. So I have a fun prize because it's July. So we're going to celebrate Christmas in July again with the 2023 Jolly Box. So this box is a special box that Fat Quarter Shop put out last December. And I saved the box for you guys, and you get everything in the box. So let's look and see what's in here. You guys know that Fat Quarter Shop does the best boxes. I'm going to move my mic just a little bit so you can still hear me. And this one is no exception. So this is the Jolly Box, and it is so great, you guys. In here is a Fat Quarter. It's a special Fat Quarter bundle of holiday cheer. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Fat Quarters in here. Look at this, you guys. Isn't this so cute with these little gingerbread people? I'm still going to sneeze. And all the cookies and stuff. So with that comes a pattern called Christmas Candy Dish. So this one has all the instructions for how to do this pattern with these fabrics, and it tells you what you need. So you'll need to get background fabric. I personally think Dainty Daisy in denim would look as a good substitute, but you could do whatever you'd like, of course. It might be hard to get this exact binding that's from this collection, but it's a red and white binding. So I think that you could easily sub it out with any red and white stripe binding if you want to use a red stripe binding. But look how cute that pattern is with the red stripe. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for a stripe binding. It doesn't matter if it's straight or diagonal, like it just makes my heart go pitter patter. So this is the pattern that comes with that box. In here is also a little cracker of, I think these are needles. We're going to look at the little thing. It tells us what these are. Pins, maybe. Okay. Oh, yes. So, there's pins and needles. So these are assorted 3/9 hand sewing needles and 80 red and green glass head pins. Look at that. So there's some gray Orifil thread, a whole spool, you guys. And this darling, so this is by Quilt, and it is 2 Jolly Gingerbread pot holders. So I think you have enough fabric left over in that Fat Quarter bundle to make the quilt and these really cute pot holders. And it comes with the hot thermal batting, the hot batting, because that's technically the technical name for pot holders that you put in is hot batting. So everybody, now you know. Okay, so this is the Quilt As You Go. So these are really cute, really fun to make, and it even comes with the little applique shapes for the gingerbread people. How darling is that? You could do really cute embroidery on these, you guys. Like if you embroidered their faces or added little things. I don't know. I don't know that I'd put buttons on them because that would kind of negate the purpose of them being pot holders. But you could do applique. So how cute is that? And then, you guys, dun, 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 look at this little charm. His little Christmas candy cane charm. I mean, seriously. Isn't that the most sweet, adorable thing? You can make up a bag for a friend that's a Christmas bag and put this pot holders in the bag and you would have a gift. Or you could just make those things up and give yourself a gift. I won't tell anyone. It'll be our secret. So all of this is in the Jolly Box. And it's amazing, you guys. So this is this week's prize. And I hope you guys are excited about Christmas in July and you don't feel like it's too soon. It's not too soon for quilters, ever, right? So that is this week's prize. You can leave a comment and enter to win, and I will announce the winner next week. So yay for that. So fun. Oh, Cindy says she loves stripe binding too, and so does Teresa. Oh, and you guys are excited about the Christmas projects. Yay. Oh, perfect. Yay. So cute, you guys. Marion says she's never embroidered, but she just received my book, so she is ready to start. Okay, so Marion, check out my YouTube channel, which you're already here. I have a whole series of embroidery videos that walk you through the steps of a whole bunch of different embroidery stitches, and I'm going to be adding even more stitches, some more of the unique stitches to that embroidery series. So get ready for that. Teresa says people think she's crazy because she tries to watch Christmas movies all year round. She loves Christmas. Oh, I love that too. Okay, friends, I'm going to let you go. This has been a long video. We almost made Casey's 4-hour video wish. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have questions about applique or anything else, let me know. I will catch you next Monday as we sew up all the fun things and get ready to sew our cute applique quilts into blocks. And thanks for being so awesome. You guys are really the best community around, and I have so much fun hanging out with you on Mondays. So have fun appliquing this week. Don't stress. You guys got this. I promise. And I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Bye.